I didn't hold myself to my own standards and values back then because it was to do with my self-esteem. I'd just been through a divorce. My self-esteem was on the floor and I was raising two kids and it was stressful, very stressful. And I was struggling with money all the time because I fell more in love with abstract and put my heart and soul into it. Then things changed. Hi, I'm Ciara Gilmore, and welcome to my podcast, Light Between the Layers.
Amazing. I'm Esther Magada and I'm the producer for this podcast. And today we are talking about creating art that sells without losing your soul. So, my first question is it possible to be commercially successful, be creatively free?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you have to make that decision, you know, because every decision you make in your business should be aligned to your values, to your soul, what you really, want to represent in your life.
Mm.
You don't want to be selling out, you don't want to be creating stuff for the sake of it. There's lots of artists out there that do, and they churn and churn and churn out stuff. So, I mean, everybody can do whatever they want in their art business. But certainly for me, my art has resonated really well with collectors and I've been successful in selling it. It is pretty commercial. It's not completely unique that, that it doesn't connect to a broad range of people and who buy art, which is great. So certainly I haven't had to sell out or, change my strategies just to sell a painting. In fact, my whole business now is based on energetics and I call it a soul aligned business. And every decision I make will be based on how I feel and intuitively what works. Every opportunity that I'm presented with, how do I feel in myself about this? Not just if it looks good on paper, but how do I feel about the person I'm about to collaborate with? If it doesn't feel right, I'm out of there, if there's that kind of gut feeling going on. So I'm a bit different than some business owners who might just go ahead. I'm very intuitively led in my business as well as in my art. So yeah, my work is pretty commercial, which is good. So it sells really well. And it also fulfills my love of connecting with my intuition and being a very spiritual person. So yeah, for me it's been okay.
And have you ever been in a position at the start or in the middle of your journey where you were tempted to not follow your intuition, or have you
Yeah,
not followed
yeah.
intuition? What was the outcome of
So
that?
I'm kind of talking about where I'm at right now and over the last few years, but when I was transitioning from realistic painting into abstract, and there was this little kind of area of time where I wasn't fully abstract and I was still doing a little bit of the old stuff as well. And people were asking me to do commissions and I didn't want to do the commissions, but I did them anyway. And I think it wasn't even to do with money at that stage. It was more people pleasing
Mm.
and I didn't want to let people down. But then I made a decision, actually a very firm decision one day that I was just going to paint abstract. And from that day, I turned everything down that wasn't abstract because I had a business before I started painting abstract and it was creating these little cute, crafty kind of pictures, sewing my children's clothes. So like little dogs or penguins or birds or houses with lovely stitching in it. And they were really beautiful. And I loved doing them, but they were were small. They were very cheap and wasn't something that I was able to make a living from. And I was still kind of doing those as I was learning abstract and as I was developing my style. So I was still doing that and I was doing abstract in the background. But then one day I just thought, no, I have to just stop and make a real clear, definitive brand kind of transition. And so I just stopped. I collected all of my craft paintings or craft little pictures from the craft shops that they were in. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I took them all back and I just started doing abstract. And I remember whenever I collected them from one of the shops, the shop owner said, you can't stop doing this. I mean, these are beautiful. What are people going to do without them? And I thought, well, buy something else. But no, I'm doing abstract now. And I remember him looking at me as if I had two heads. What
Wow.
on earth? Because they were beautiful. But
Mhm.
I suppose what people didn't know at that time that I wasn't making any money from these. It was a nice little thing to do. And I had a stall in St. George's Market and I was selling them down there. But I would go some days and make about £16.
Wow.
You know, I remember those days standing on a stall all day long in the freezing cold, selling these beautiful things that people would refuse to spend any more than £40 on for an original, that took me hours and hours and hours to create. But I did know, like I used my intelligence in my head when I realized if you want to make a career as an artist, and I was good at painting, fine art is where you can create success.
Mm.
And I always loved painting, so I went full on into that. I
How long
knew
did you have this business, the previous business? Like, how long did you put up with not making much money?
8 years. 8
8 years.
years.
Why?
Who knows? I was on because I didn't deserve. I felt I didn't deserve anymore. So for 8 years, I did craft fairs, I did stalls, I did markets. I created these pieces. I was doing a wee bit of painting as well, painting animals and things like that. But I was selling them for very little and I wasn't making any profit at all. I was making a loss every year. And I used to think the tax man's going to think, what's this girl at? Like, she's literally actually making a loss. Why is she bothering? But I had my benefits because I was a single parent. I was on benefits and that was a little bit of a safety net for me. Not very much money, I might add, and very hard to pay the bills and very hard to do what I really wanted to do with my life. But yeah, I was in that zone where I didn't feel that I deserved any more than what I was getting. And I don't even know really when the day was or the time was when I sat up and went, you do deserve more. You can do this. And I suppose it boils down to a lot of the reading and the people I surround myself with. So I read a lot of books about creating success and wealth and things like that, and manifesting books and energy books and all that carry on. Love those. And I remember reading a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Francis, no, Florence Scovel Shinn. And it's this woman, a woman, like a single woman in the 1920s who wrote this book. And yes, it's a bit old fashioned, but everything in it just spoke to me about how you could actually change your life and create something very, very easily if you just shifted your thinking and shifted your beliefs. And that's kind of the most, I would call it the book with the spark, that kind of like ignited me into change. And in my mind, while I was doing, you know, coincidentally changing, the painting and the direction I was going in as well. Yeah, so that book was pivotal in me changing my life. And certainly there was, going back to the original question, I I didn't hold myself to my own standards and values back then because it was to do with my self-esteem. I'd just been through a divorce. My self-esteem was on the floor and I was raising two kids and it was stressful, very stressful. And I was struggling with money all the time. And so, yeah, there were those moments. But then they started as I fell more in love with abstract and put my heart and soul into it, then things changed. And so it's not something I would do now. In fact, I said no to a commission yesterday to paint the Scottish Highlands. So no, I'm not doing that. I'm an abstract painter. You know, I also said no to a commission from Dubai, which was going to be don't know how much, but it was a lot of zeros. It wasn't the style that I do, so I'm not doing that. I'm not compromising what I do. I wouldn't just do it for money.
And it helps that you have been like where you started from when you started your previous business.
Hmm.
It's like you know what it's like to compromise your values, and it's just like it gets to a point where it's not worth it,
Yeah.
and you don't need it. It's good to be in a position where you
Yes.
don't need it, but even
Yeah.
I think when you make that stance even early on of like no more,
Yeah.
then that guides you through
Hmm.
your journey, and it seems like it's
Hmm.
worked for you.
Because I always find that if one opportunity doesn't pan out, well, then another one comes knocking, no matter whether it's when you expect it or not. It doesn't matter. And that's when you try to control this journey, you can get disappointed. I don't get all really upset about something not working out anymore. I used to. It's just like that wasn't meant to be. The next one will be aligned. The next one will be perfect. And also, if you do something like that, the actual experience of doing, say, a commission that you do want to do, oh, it's awful. It's not that. I mean, and it'll end up that you'll not be happy with it or they'll not be happy with it because the energy's wrong. It's about the energy match. And that's where I'm at the moment. It's like make sure that the energies match up and they're completely aligned. And then when they are, then it's a beautiful experience. And that's
And how
it's
long did it take you to figure that out? Because obviously you transitioned from your old business to the new business, but
yeah,
you've been doing abstract art now for 8 years as well.
since 2017. So about 7
7 years.
years.
So at
Yeah.
what point from the beginner stage to the middle stage to now did you really understand your intuition and like
It's hard to actually set, because it was a
gradual
gradual
thing?
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose because I'm the type of person who is constantly working on myself
Yeah.
as a person, developing myself, learning from others. I'm always taking courses. I'm like a online course junkie. I'm juggling 3 different major courses at the minute that I'm taking. I'm learning from other people. So I'm just student, a student of life, a student of the soul, a student of what makes us tick in this life. And, I suppose we're all on this journey of figuring out what are we here to do? Why are we here? What's our life purpose? And and along the way I've discovered that through all of these courses and teachings and reading and listening to podcasts and things like that, I've absorbed lots of information and it's just really helped me on my journey. It's really helped me to see things in a different way and be able to connect more. And obviously, my training in Reiki and integrated energy therapy has been useful for being able to connect to my soul, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, just my divine knowing. And it's just easier. And also then translating that and using that in my art has been a lot more, it's been easier for me, maybe than somebody else who hasn't had a background in those types of things. I don't know, but I just think that I just think that you can, do do it if you want to. If you want to, you find out how to do it and you do it.
And it seems like you just even like in all processes and all parts of whatever business you've had, you've constantly stayed engaged.
Yeah,
And you're constant like you're nowhere, you're a curious person, you want to seek things out, and
yeah.
that seems to be like innate in
It's
you.
part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was asking my mum the other day, why am I like this? I can't sit still. I have to be doing something. I have to have a new project. I have
Yeah.
to be discovering something new. I'm not content to sit and let life go by. I have to find out why. What are we doing here? Why am I doing art? What's the point? Why am I teaching? What am I here to do? What's my mission? What's my vision? She says, you just get that from your dad. So he never stops, basically. He's always doing stuff, growing and finding out more. So yeah, it's part of who I am, and I can't definitively say when it was that it happened. It's been a journey. And here I am today talking about it when only a few people who know me well would know, you know, this this is part of who I am. Thanks so much for joining us our podcast today, and I'll see you in the next one.